are back for the draft for game 2 of the LHGUL Week 1 game between Omega Gaming Unleashed and Team Aquila. I'm Gordo, joined by Rudude, as always.
Yeah, and after that game number 1 here, I'm not sure what we're going to see from Omega here because they went for this team fighting composition, this just press R comp, and ultimately they got counter picks. The Silas really ran rampant in that game and was pretty much a determining factor in the majority of these team fights here. And I want to see some form of adaptation, be it banning the Silas, be it playing a different style of composition, something that is more in tune with how they usually play. That'd be something to look at.
Yeah,
But
so Malcolm drawing the Jervin ban. It's if first team to decide they want something different is going to be Team Aquila. Omega coming in with the exact same bans that they came in with last game.
yeah, and with the Jarvan ban, that opens up the Graves first pick for Aquila's jungler here. Zydeco had a good performance on the Pantheon. I want to see how well he can do on something that's just a little bit more meta here.
All right, yeah, he is definitely a big Graves player. Big Graves players for on both jungles, on both sides actually. So going to be a matchup that Malcolm is familiar with as he plays it himself a lot, but also going to be one of Zydeco's most comfortable picks.
Yeah, for sure. And now we've got Omega picking up the Heart of Freljord combo here. Ashe and Sejuani coming through, the boar and the woman, along with the Ashe Prince Queen, whatever you want to call her. The lot of slows, a lot of CC picked up from these two initial picks here.
Yeah, and that's going to be a Senna locked in here. I'm actually very curious when looking at Team Aquila where that Senna is going to go. Two Pump has been known to play the support Senna, and on this Worlds patch, the 80 carry Senna was nerfed once again, getting less souls than it used to for CS that it gets. And as I say, the Morgana's locked in, and my dreams are crushed.
I mean, I will say that we could still see fasting Senna just off of the nerf. I wouldn't expect it, but there's always that possibility. Morgana does have some, also I'll call it solo lane potential, and just say that she has some farming potential.
Yeah,
The tormented soil does do significant amounts of damage to waves and also to obviously champions if you're able to get farmed up enough.
yeah, no, they do. That will be the double snare lane if they can get it, and it's going to be the Ornn coming out here. And there's the Silas ban we talked about. It's going to be trying to keep that away from Wu Yun.
Yeah, and now that as well as the Mordekaiser ban from Team Aquila opening up the Ornn pick for Omega quite comfortably, or notably or Mordekaiser rather, one of Ornn's hardest counters, so they'll be happy that they can get Ornn into a relatively safe matchup, we can call it. And Unleashed here, locking in this Zyra, going for another aggressive 2v2 lane.
Yeah, and with this Ornn locked in, something I definitely want to look at is we do have a Riven player in our midst. We know that Wu Yun is a big Riven player in solo queue, and this is certainly one of the matchups where you're allowed to pick it. This is one of the matchups that Viper likes to take the Riven to in the LCS. But as with everything I bring up, it's going to be Wukong.
Hey, we're trying to make things exciting here, okay? And
I just want to be right.
ex-
But
bringing
and it's going to
these,
look like it's going to be the Syndra as well.
yeah, we're just sitting on the hover at the minute. Obviously, pro draft being pro draft, you can
Yeah,
never
definitely
fully know.
excited for that Zyra pick as a counter and as a lane matchup. The Ashe Zyra, a classic lane duo from back in the season 3 Cloud9 days.
Mm.
And Zyra herself, a great counter pick to that Morgana. It seems a little uh, not straightforward that that an AP carry would be good into Morgana, who may as the magic damage shield, but dealing magic damage is where it's actually the most important to dealing with Morgana, because you want to be able to pop that shield so that you can land additional CC.
Oh, okay, and yes, I'll agree with everything you say right there, but we've got more important things to talk about right now with that Aurelia lock-in. The Aurelia Sedge combo coming out for Unleashed, and this immediately speaks to, that different style that I asked from Unleashed. They're going to start probably playing around this mid lane. The Sejuani Aurelia combination, making it incredibly easy to stack Sejuani stuns, stack the Seju passive for that proc. Into Orianna as well. Definitely a lane that an Aurelia can take hold of.
Yeah, no, definitely. You talked about Omega going back to the styles that they're more familiar with, and this is definitely the kind of thing that we'd expect out of Princeton. He is a big playmaker player. He's a big on these melee assassin champions. He plays Yasuo, he plays Kali, he plays Diana, and we're going to see Irelia right in that wheelhouse joining him.
Exactly, and you can see it not just in the OPGGs, but in the bans here as well. Getting Yasuo taken away from you. Definitely a respect ban more so than anything else. You know, Yasuo's not dominant in the meta right now, and you think whenever he is, he generally gets nerfed because Yasuo's such an oppressive champion if he's OP. Uh,
Yeah, Team Aquila definitely cognizant of the other team Yasuo effect. They know that if they're not going to pick it themselves, the other team's going to pop off on it.
exactly, and Unleashed have so many games just running Gragas Yasuo or X Yasuo here to get setups and get the engages going. The ban is completely warranted, and I'm really happy to see that they've picked up a different combination with this mid jungle style. And also, not just that, they've given themselves a self sufficient bot lane, which is really important because it means that they can play to this mid lane and know that bot lane should be okay. You know, Zyra in a 2v3, probably the best 2v3 support that you can dream of, just because of the thorns and the roots that you can pull up. And even if they're pushing up and getting an advantage and then happen to get ganked, there's always that chance that they turn the gank around.
Yeah, certainly is. I'm just staring at Team Aquila here, getting excited to see what the order of Senna Morgana is going to be. It's almost certainly going to be Kaiser's Senna, but we're still holding out hope a little bit.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm still, I was still hoping slightly, just in some realm, that we'd get to see a Senna Wukong bot lane. Though I wouldn't know what would go top lane in that situation. You know, just seeing Senna and Wukong on the same team always fills me with a little bit of hope.
I
Uh,
feel like I've seen Morgana top before. It's got to have happened
at some point,
once or twice.
I'm sure somewhere in the stats archive there'll be a Morgana top gameplay in NA Amateur. But it's not going to happen this game, unfortunately. We can live and we can meme and we can dream as much as we so choose. But unfortunately, Wukong with Wu Hyun here on the top lane. And he had a really good game number one on the Sylas, so I feel like Wukong and Sylas, despite being two very different champions, are actually two very similar styles in some sense.
Yeah, definitely going to be wanting to go in and fight here as much as they can. Definitely both going to be winning lane matchups against the tanks that they've been picked into. Wukong is considered one of those powerful picks against Ornn. He can shred through his armor with his Q, and hopefully get enough damage out to be able to keep Madman down in CS and give Wu Yun the advantage that he wants.
For sure, and this is another composition from Aquila where they don't necessarily have a tank here. You know, 4, 5 damage carries coming out. Yes, maybe you're not going to go that far with Morgana, but you have to think that the Senna, the Ori, the Graves, and the Wukong all going to be dishing out tons of damage. And they don't necessarily have the level of frontline that you'd like necessarily from a generic team composition. It's
Yeah,
very
and we talked
straightforward.
about a style change from OGU here, and they've drafted the same comp again, pretty much. This is still going to be the Wombo team fight comp, just with Princeton on a little bit more of a comfort pick, and some of the picks changed around, but definitely going to be big AOE CC ultimates coming out of the Ornn, coming out of the Zyra, coming out of the Sejuani.
For sure, it gives agency to other areas of the map as well. And you know, game number one, we saw a lot of focus put down onto adjustment on the misfortune and all of the kills funneled into him. This game, you can definitely see that Princeton has the potential to start taking over if he's given the resources to do so. On the Ori, didn't quite look as comfortable, and he didn't have the same stellar pop-off performance. Be it that he was getting focused or that he just Ori wasn't doing the damage that he needed to. Feels like this game they've got for Unleashed 2 carries that you can really rely on here.
Yeah, no. And Aquila coming in to fight fire with fire. They've moved away from that global based team comp that they were running last game. And they've got a fair amount of team fight tools themselves. They've picked away the Oriana for their own side. They've got the Wukong with his own Cyclone ultimate. They got the Senna and Morgana ultimates. And even Graves himself is quite a good team fighter. He's able to provide some supplementary damage in light of Senna not really filling that traditional AD carry role of consistent DPS.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be a fight fire with fire situation for Aquila. You know, you highlighted it perfectly. The game number one, they were quite happy to try and tear Unleashed around the map. This time they're just going to outmatch them. It feels like that they're just thrown down the gauntlet and say, "You're going to team fight, we're going to team fight, and let's just see who's better."
Yeah, no, Aquila definitely going to want to be playing towards their top side this game, while OGU wants to play towards their bot side a little bit more, try to take advantage of this aggressive mage support pick that they've gone away with. So definitely expecting to see a lot of action early, a lot of ganks on opposite sides of the map. We'll see who can predict things and who can get away with things better.
For sure, and with that all said and done, though, we are gonna just throw it to a quick break before we get synced up into Summoner's Rift. So we'll see you guys on the other side of it. Don't go anywhere. We've got the second game of Unleashed versus Team Aquila, and you don't really want to miss it because this, to all intents and purposes, could be a banger right now.
Hello, everybody. We are back. We are getting into game 2 for LHGUL, Omega Gaming Unleashed versus Team Aquila. Kept the same sides this game. We're ready to get into it. I'm Gordo, here with Rudude yet again.
Back at it with the second game after Unleashed take a bit of a rough game number one. You know, they've drafted themselves this hard team fight composition that just press R to win. And unfortunately, they pressed R, but they didn't win. So they're running it back a little bit in game number two with something slightly different.
Yeah, they had some issues early on. They fell behind early, and they were surprisingly able to stay in for a long time. Now there might be some arguments as to why that occurred. There might be a couple of failed backdoors that provide evidence that it wasn't just up to OGU how long they stayed in the game, but certainly something that is worth noting and is worth getting excited for game two.
Yeah, it's admirable nonetheless. Even at the disadvantage that they were at, they still managed to find themselves some way back into the game. Right, there was a point where you thought that maybe they could do it. Ultimately, they could. They couldn't though, and was a nice closeout by Aquila in the end after what we will call some for fun actions on the Rift.
Yeah, well, just gonna be getting started here. Everybody arriving in lane.
And it's Ash Zyra lane.
Yeah, the spot lane's definitely something I want to keep an eye on. I am a big fan of the Zyra pick. I think it's been very strong for a long time. I'm just waiting for somebody to bust it out in the right matchup, and I think the Morgana matchup is certainly one where you can do it.
Yeah, for sure. It's something that you touched on it a little bit in draft that seems a bit counterintuitive, that Zyra would counter Morgana. But definitely, if you're able to burn that shield, that magic damage shield, you can do a ton of damage in team fights and open up for the Ornn and for the Sejuani to start dealing the CC and allowing Adjustment and Princeton to get in there and get in the backline to dish out the damage more so than anything else.
Yeah, definitely something to get excited about. Let's see. The Senna is going to be in the 80 carry position this game, so she's going to be feeling some of those nerfs since the last time many of you might have seen her. She's going to be dropping a lot less souls, going to be getting that range and crit chance a lot slower than what might have occurred previously.
Yeah, and I think I feel like in a minority camp here where I feel like these Senna nerfs really didn't hurt her too much at all. I think that the reason people are picking Senna is because you somewhat get a free laning phase, and the way that Sennas generate souls isn't necessarily just hoping for that 6 or now 4% drop rate. It's more so that you can just auto attack twice or auto Q or however it may be, but essentially you want to farm souls from champions more than anything else than you want to drop them from from the minions. And there's always going to be those occasions where you miss a CS, for example, or something like that does happen, and you just get a soul then randomly as well. So I feel like people are over-exaggerating the Senna nerfs a little bit, maybe warranted that she lacks a little bit of priority. I feel like late game, though, you're only really missing sort of an extra 20 souls, which can mean the difference between winning and losing a game in sometimes, but the stats are not as huge as I'd imagined.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Senna can also still get those stacks from checking in with her jungler during rotations and picking them up off the camps. That drop rate hasn't been affected at all either. Ooh, close dodge by Viker there. Well played to make sure he doesn't get caught out.
Yeah, and stepping up, Kaisper really feeling confident there. Adjustment and Vicar are having to back off because they know that ZyDaCoL's in that brush right there.
And here's the 1v1 coming out of Woohoo, and he gets the clone down, gets a couple of auto attacks out of both. Gonna be dealing a decent amount of damage there.
Yeah, and the difference in items in the top lane here, D-Shield versus the Corrupting Potion, so more sustain for the Madman, but more combat power for Woohoo on the top side, and definitely making it work. Definitely got a little CS lead for himself right now, though, with the wave crashing in, should be able to be resurmounted by the Madman.
Yeah, no, that burst combo from the new Wukong can be so misleading with how much damage you can come out. If you lead off with the E, and you get the attack speed buff, start with your W, you get 2 Qs, you get the increased attack speed on both copies of Wukong, and you get both armor shreds, and then you're home free. You deal so much damage at that point.
Yeah, exactly, and it's what you want versus a tank like the Ornn. This Wukong should be able to crush through him relatively easily, and I'll be interested to see. Oh, okay.
Ooh, knock up on the Woohyun. Gonna try to trade back a little bit, but he is certainly taking some punishment in this lane.
For sure, and you can look already. We can see ZyDaCoL in the topside jungle. Smalcrum about to find the Graves here.
Yeah, no, ZyDaCoL and Smalcrum are fighting here, but not really so much of a fight. Smalcrum knows he is low, he's got to get out of there, but he's able to get away with the Arctic Assault over the wall, doesn't need to blow the flash.
No, but the Madman might be in
but
danger
this might
here.
be a dive coming out on the Madman. ZyDaCoL's here under turret. He takes the aggro, he ults out, he gets the first blood for Woohyun, and that's just going to be a simple dive. First blood goes over to Team Aquila.
Yeah, pretty well executed right there. ZyDaCoL, the ranged character, walks up, tanks the turret, gets the aggro. Wu Hyun goes in, dishes the damage, and before Zydeco has even dropped the aggro, Madman is down. So really well played gank. Nice first blood going in favour of the Wukong. Good rotation up as well from Prism on this Orianna.
I know, a lot of damage coming onto Adjustment here, stuck on that tormented soil, but it's going to be able to walk away.
Yeah, and this lane that we said would favour Omega Gaming Unleashed here, definitely proving the opposite here. 2Pump and Kaisper with a CS lead for themselves as well. Definitely feels pretty good if you are this Senna Morgana lane. You know, really neutralizing the Ashe Zyra potency that we were expecting to see.
Yeah, no, and now once again, it's going to be Wu Yun going in here. I'm actually really expecting an all-in from Wu Yun really soon here because he has the ultimate, and there is no ultimate from the Madman, and here it goes. He's going to be getting the first ultimate here. He's got a second one coming up soon. He uses the E, he follows with the flash, he gets the Q, but he can't use the second ultimate. He knows that it wouldn't hit, so he's just going to use it to clear out the wave. That's going to be a trade of flashes in the top lane, but still, Wu Yun just asserting his dominance.
Yeah, and it feels like a little bit greedy from the Madman right there, stepping up, trying to force a fight with Wu Hyun. You know, trying to, I don't know, make something out of nothing when you know you're a level down. I think, if I'm reading it correctly, what he was hoping for was actually to get that fight there, and the way that his wave was positioned, Wu Hyun might have been able to set up a freeze and sort of really deny him a lot of CS. But with the Tiamat as well, I'm not too sure how long that freeze would have been sustainable. So,
yeah,
a little bit questionable as to what happened, though, you know, I can see the benefits. Even though you lose your
know
flash.
the Madman was very close to hitting level 6, so maybe he was hoping to kill off a minion or two with the Bellows Breath, able to hit 6 for himself, and then maybe have a little bit more of a chance in that battle.
Yeah, and you know, I want to also draw some attention to this mid lane right now because you know, we touched on bot, touched on top here, but mid lane's actually going quite well for Unleashed here. Princeton on this Aurelia has a slight CS lead, has the roam priority right now, and Simulacrum could be fighting with the Zydeco up on the top side, but the Aurelia back to it is doing quite well for herself in this mid lane. And you know, you look at the item discrepancy off of first recalls. Aurelia went back and got a Bilgewater, boots, and a dagger, and the Aurelia went and the Orianna rather picked up a Dark Seal and a cloth armor. So some definite discrepancies early on.
Yeah, no, I'd say it's even more than a slight CS lead. A 15 CS lead at about 8 minutes in the straight 1v1, that's certainly nothing to scoff at. I'd definitely excited to see what Princeton's able to do as this game goes on. He's been maintaining that mid priority for most of the game, just shoving it in, disappearing into the river, looking for roams, and he got thwarted that time, but he's going to keep trying as this game goes on and hopefully be able to find some kills and some pressure.
And here we see a top lane gank coming through, Simulacrum nearby.
Yeah, no, Wu Yun's getting engaged on here by Simulacrum. He's going to land the point-blank Glacial Prison. Gonna get knocked up out of the Arctic Assault, but it's gonna be a pretty simple pickup here. 2v1, Wu Yun caught sleeping, a bit too far up.
Yeah, had the river control warded, but obviously wasn't enough to keep himself safe here. Really nice little gank coming out from Simulacrum. Also, once again, you got to point out, had Princeton nearby, just in case everything went a little bit pear-shaped, had the Aurelia there to back up. Wasn't needed in the end and does just go back mid lane to continue farming. But a nice little pickup from Unleashed here. Definitely going a lot better than game number 1, it feels.
Yeah, no, they're certainly able to keep themselves in this. They've lost the first dragon, but that's not too much, and they're going to be able to get this first Rift Herald here. If they can turn this into some turret plates for themselves, that's going to be the gold lead in their favor. And it does go down. It's going to get picked up by Simulacrum.
Yeah, for sure, and it now comes down to can Unleashed stabilize this bot lane, because that's pretty much the only thing that I feel like is a little bit behind at this point. Yes, top lane is still going to be quite rough, but it's on into Maokai, so you're not really too worried about your own falling behind because he's still going to do the same things that an own does, regardless of being, you know, 1 and 10 or 10 and 1, you know? On still does on things.
Still taking these huge trades onto the Madman here. Just definitely favoring this Wukong pretty much every phase of the lane. He's just going to be such a big threat here with his ability to shred through that armor. And here comes Princeton. He's looking for a play here. He's going to get the stun from his E. He's got his ultimate to follow up if he so chooses, but he's a little concerned. He's just going to back away.
Yeah, just waiting because he's playing towards Simulacrum on this side, but Zydeco is lurking as well. Both these junglers luring around mid lane, and they're both just
Yeah, they
waiting.
know there's the play coming. Here comes Zydeco. He gets the first engage. He gets the red smite onto him and flashes up forward, but gets met up by Malcolm right away. But that's going to be the Dawning Shadow coming in from Kysper across the map for the assist and to pick up Princeton here.
Yeah, Dawning Shadow Shockwave combo there. So much damage for Princeton to be able to deal with all at once, and what looked like it could have been a nice 2 versus 2 ultimately just becomes a quick kill for Team Aquila, and they just walk away with it quite happily. Malcolm resorting back to just having to farm his jungle, and this advantage that had been found in the mid lane just out of outlaning from Princeton is now really just fallen down by the wayside as we see that CS gap closed up, and the XP lead now back in Prism's favour.
Yeah, no, they don't have the Twisted Fate anymore, but you still got to watch out for those global ultimates coming out of Team Aquila. Dawning Shadow going to be a big decider in a lot of these team fights, and just Princeton getting bursted out so quickly there with the bonus damage out of Zydeco's Red Smite, plus the Shockwave and Dissonance combo from Prism, just enough to melt through that Irelia really fast.
Yeah, for sure, and you know, this fighting in the top lane
No,
still
it's
going
going
on.
to be a full engage onto Madman here. Woohyun once again has the ultimate available, but not going to be using it. Prism is getting engaged on in the mid lane, manages to use the cleanse, dodge out of the Glacial Prism. Great played there. Prison.
Yeah,
Great play there by.
Nice little dodge out using the cleanse, and even if you get hit by that ulti afterwards, the cleanse reduced cooldown, or reduced tenacity rather, probably means that you're going to be safe. So nice to use that cooldown, and is able to keep his flash rather. And Zydeco taking this Drake. OG
yeah,
here.
They're going to be found here. Smulkrum here. It's going to be a smite fight. Smulkrum actually gets it. It's going to be 1-1 in Drake's here. Zydeco caught with his pants down as he's doing that dragon there.
Yeah, Smulkrum says thank you for the leash. Walks on out. Quick neutral objective to Unleashed right there. Quite happy to just get that quick steal away and flash the top lane.
And that's going to be a flash engage out of Woohyun. Woohyun's going full on onto the Madman, but the Madman's able to flash right over a wall, actually. Once again, just going to be a trade of flashes, but Wukong using the ultimate, whereas Madman doesn't have to. It's probably a little bit of a small comfort over to the side of Omega.
Yeah, the Ornn still has the Ornn Horn available, which is quite important. Should a team fight erupt within the next 2 minutes, definitely going to have that cooldown advantage. And I'm actually, you know, I wanted to touch on this a little bit earlier. Quite intrigued by the Wukong build, because versus an Ornn, typically what you'll see is Wukongs go for something more split push focused, we'll say, with the blade, but we don't have time for that, so dive
here
top.
Comes the Ornn Horn. He's getting dove yet again. He's not going to be able to interrupt this, though. He's letting all of his damage onto the Wukong clone. He's not going to get picked up by the dive, as he was able to force the wave back and get the aggro onto the other team, but he is going to be forced away from his turret.
Yeah, so he gets forced off of the turret. Malcolm places the Herald mid lane and nets about a 300 gold for the rest of, or for himself and Princeton split between the two of them. Gets the Shockwave out of Prism as well, so maybe there's now a small window for Princeton to look to be a little bit aggressive here. But
yeah, going to be a good influx of gold there off that Rift Herald. You know, doesn't take the turret every time, but it's still a way to gain an advantage. What you got.
Exactly, and you use it before 14 minutes, you ensure yourself the plate gold that you get up from it. So in that situation, probably not going to get a turret anywhere on the map just because they're not strong enough to force anybody off of the turrets yet. And with the flash still available on Prism, definitely wasn't fearful for a dive with no Glacial Prison available for the Sejuani. So just using it to get the plates, to get you the gold before they fall off at that 14-minute mark, definitely the better play for Unleashed.
Yeah, for sure. Now we're back to business as usual. No more neutral objectives up, so we're going to wait. Dragon's going to be the next one to spawn. And this is going to be Dragon number 3, but no team has 2 Drakes yet, so we might see this one maybe given up a little bit earlier. It is going to be, of course, the mountain map.
Yeah, so difference from game number 1, obviously. You know, it's just a 25% chance at the end of the day. So we get one of each type, really, with the switch up from ocean to mountain. Quite happy with that. Different terrain here this game, and more fighting top.
Another engage onto the Madman. He's got the double armor shred onto him, so he's just dealing a lot of damage here with this Tiamat and able to stick on him with the Phage. Looks like it's going to be a Triforce build for this Wukong. He goes in yet again. He's got the ultimate. He might be looking to make a difference here. He knocks him out of the charge, and now it's going to be complete all-in for Woohyun. He's looking to get a solo kill here onto the Madman, and he's going to get it. Solo kill over to Woohyun here on this Wukong.
Yeah, and Madman overextending up in the top lane. Once again, this Wukong throwing hands and throwing them effectively there. Gets himself the solo kill. Cyclone popped. The double armor pen, as you so rightly pointed out during the fight, coming in and paying huge dividends. And now Princeton mid.
Oh, now it's going to be an all-in from Princeton. He lands the stun, he follows up with the ultimate, and he gets the solo kill before the shockwave can even come out. Huge play by Princeton, matching up with Woohyun in the top lane. You can do it, I can do it too.
And that's exactly what they need right now. This Irelia is what they've drafted around. They've picked the Sejuani to help Irelia, and Samalcom now top lane.
Zamalkrim get the stun onto Woohyun here. He's going to be forced out. He's got to back away. The Dawning Shadow comes in, gives him the shield, but it's not going to be enough to get the turn here. He doesn't have the clone. He's getting flashed on. He gets red buffed on. He gets taken down by Samalkrim. Big response from Omega Gaming here. Not willing to let this series go down without a fight.
No, definitely not, and really well played by not just Princeton, now Samalcom making a play happen in the top lane. Glacial Prison under the turret, meaning the Wukong takes a couple of extra turret shots that he maybe wasn't anticipating there. And now they're going to look towards this Herald as well. Second neutral objective on the top side going in their favour. And they might, with that, be able to break mid-tier 1. Should they get it, though? Zydeco.
Yeah, no, it's going to be being contested here by Zydol as well as the Orianna from Prism, but they're coming in here. They're getting forced back onto, though. Samalkrim forcing on to Prism here. He's got Princeton for backup, but here comes the teleport from Woohyun, who is once again going to actually not let the shockwave hit. Samalkrim able to walk out of that even with the ball on Wukong. That's gotta hurt if you're Prism. Quite the good pick opportunity there, but not going to be able to get it through.
Yeah, not fully committed on, and now the bot lane's going to have to rotate. This fight is still going on. 3 members run down towards this Drake. The Mountain Drake spawning, and Samalkrim dashes in.
Samalkrim going in here, going to be taking a lot of damage from Woohyun here. The fight has moved all the way from the Rift Herald down to the Dragon as the Dragon spawns, and now all 5 members of both teams are in the area. They both want this Mountain Drake. They both want to get this stacking started early. They both want to start moving towards this soul. Woohyun is leading the charge for Team Aquila here, going to be looking to get this engage once Omega starts the Dragon. But now it's coming on over towards Team Aquila. Samalkrim starting up onto the Dragon here. They're going to be fighting back and forth with it. Skill shots going back and forth, but Omega Gaming with control over the pit itself. They have members in there. We're going to be able to keep putting the damage onto it, but they're scared of a steal from Xylol. Woohyun gets Ashe ultimate, but they're not able to follow up on it. Blue team steals the Dragon, and Woohyun is in the middle of everybody getting a huge ultimate now, but he gets knocked up by the Zyro ultimate. Fights going back and forth as both members go down. 2 pump now. Triangles the Morgana ultimate, but he's forced to break it and get away. Zydeco going to be picked up by Adjustment in the pit. This is a win for Omega Esports so far as they push back on to this Team Aquila team. They're forced to fall back into the mid lane, except the fact that they had a 2-for-2 actually overall, and they were able to pick up the Dragon for themselves. Even without the prio after the fight, probably got to consider it a win overall for Aquila.
Yeah, so really important to note about that team fight. Big ultimates were on cooldown as the team fight got engaged. Glacial Prism wasn't up for Samalkrim, neither was the Shockwave. Yes, the Shockwave came through afterwards, but it meant that the engage from Aquila wasn't as clean as they'd have liked. Ultimately results in a 2-for-2, but mid-tier 1 goes in favour of Unleashed. The Mountain Drake, however, goes in favour of Aquila. Currently sitting 90 minutes into this game, 700 gold disparity between the teams really doesn't mean all that much at this point. And this game is hanging in the balance.
Yeah, still so incredibly close. It is 5 kills to 5 on each side. 2 Drakes to 1. 29.5k to 30.2k. All the numbers incredibly close here. Definitely a close game coming into this mid game here as we approach the 20-minute mark, as we approach the Baron spawning. Nobody is actually going to be taking the second Herald. They might try it, but it's going to be hard to close out in 25 seconds.
Yeah,
they're going to leave it. Just
feeling like there's just not worth the expenditure. The resources they'd have to commit to it would be too great, unfortunately. So, like you say, that Herald not going to go down to anybody here, and just waiting
there
right
he goes. He disappears. No second Rift Herald going to be going down this game, as it's time for our good friend the Baron to spawn.
Indeed, and as it respawns, we'll just let's take a just stock of how quickly these teams are going to take it, because there's a clear difference between which team takes it quickly and which team doesn't. Obviously, Senna, Ori aren't the 2 greatest Baron takers that you'd want on your team. But then you compare that versus Ashe and Irelia, I think that they take that Baron fairly quickly themselves, especially with the Blade of the Ruin King picked up on the Irelia as well. Should we find an opportunity for maybe a sneak or maybe just a one-team fight, Unleashed actually have, for me at least, the better Baron take, just in that respect.
Yeah, they might also have the better scaling as well. We mentioned the infinite scaling on the Senna, but that's less relevant than it's ever been, and even then was never really the kind of late-game insurance policy you wanted. But meanwhile, on Omega Gaming's side, they have the Ornn items that are going to start coming through. They got a full, true tank in this Sejuani who's going to be building up so many tank stats, and who you're really going to struggle to cut through with 80 carries like Senna and Graves.
For sure, like these are by no means tank busters, are they? You know, you look at your Graves and your Senna, as you rightly pointed out, and they're great at trying to focus down squishy targets like Vikro and Adjustment, but trying to take down Simalcrum and the Madman, they might struggle quite a bit. So I like the point that you bring up about scaling, and it's definitely going to be quite entertaining to see as this game goes on, because we're reaching the big item breakpoints now for a couple of members of Unleashed here. The Gargoyle Stoneplate picked up for Simalcrum, Wit's End picked up for Princeton as well. Two big items to pick up in the mid game, and if another fight erupts around this Mountain Drake, then could again see a fairly even team fight, or maybe one going in the favor of Unleashed.
Yeah, definitely looking for Woohyun to be the big difference maker in a lot of these fights. If it's a straight front-to-back team fight, you've got to favor Omega in almost all situations. But if that Woohyun Wukong is able to get onto some of the carries, if they're able to get onto Adjustments and Vicro, if they're able to keep Princeton from dashing around the entire fight with his knock-up and burst him down before he starts sustaining up and doing Irelia things, that's going to be their key to the game.
Exactly, and this is where it becomes a case of which team executes better, as Woohyun just going to take this turret top.
Alright, Woohyun's going to pick up that fight, and Madman, just like that, has no more turret to defend him. Got to start looking on his route out.
Yeah, it takes the recall, goes back, and has had about enough of the top lane for now. Been bullied around quite consistently during that top lane laning phase, so probably going to be quite happy to see that turret fall and free up both himself and the Wukong as well. But yeah, back to sort of how these team fights are going to go, it comes down to the execution, as we started to allude to here. If the Wukong and the Graves can find backline access, then you are going to favour them. And Aquila are a team that we've seen already be able to find access to the backline, so I like the fact that they've picked this composition and sort of stuck true to what they did in game number 1. But I also like the adaptation from Unleashed to say that we're doing some things better this time.
And here comes the next Dragon Spawn. Big deal if Aquila is able to get this, as it'll put them on Soul Point. OGU wants to make sure that that doesn't happen. They're going for a big engage here onto LHGUL, but actually so much damage onto Simulacrum. He's completely caught out. He's been snared for so long and he can't turn it around, but Woohyun is picked up on the other side. It's actually going to be a 4v4 now, as Madman is able to get in and able to put out so much CC onto everybody. LHGUL forced to flash forward and try to pick up Princeton, but isn't able to do enough damage. He gets forced back by the damage of Vicro. Adjustments is so low now. He's getting chased down by Prism, but Prism is just going to get jumped on by the rest of the team. It is now a 4v3. 2Pump and Kaisper try to keep everybody healed up, shielded up, but they are now at a numbers disadvantage. They might feel the need to back off here, but they're moving back onto the Baron as the rest of the team isn't able to. Simalcrum here is dead, but LHGUL is not. This makes it a major risk for OGU to actually pick up this dragon.
Yeah, with the numbers advantage, they still don't feel confident to go for it, and we might actually just see the rest of Aquila take it. This Senna doing work in this extended team fight because he's able to heal up all of his teammates with those piercing
but OGU
darknesses.
senses that something's going on here. They don't want to just give up this dragon for free. They've got two players here that are very powerful, but here comes Woohyun. He's teleported into the fight and he's jumped onto two backliners just like we said. He's keeping them knocked up. He gets shut down onto Vicro. He gets a shutdown onto Princeton, and that is going to be the dragon given over to Team Aquila, and the team fight as a whole given over to Team Aquila.
Definitely well played by Aquila once again, using the teleport cooldown to its full effectiveness, and they may now try and look towards this Baron now. 2 members down, 25 minutes into the game right now. They definitely can do it, and this is where that Baron take that I was talking about before comes into play. How quickly can they get it taken down? Because Ashe, Ornn, and Sejuani are all here trying to disrupt.
Going to be spotted out by a Scryer's Bloom here. They're trying to just fire the volleys in, do as much damage as possible. They're looking over into that Baron. Simalcrum's going to look at a potential steal here. It's going down to 5k HP, but they have a red buff, a red ward in the pit. But here, Prism and Adjustment are actually dueling back and forth. The Madman gets picked off by the Shockwave. Now Simulacrum is taking a bunch of damage and has to move away as well, and they're going to go right back onto the Baron with a little small team fight win for themselves.
Yeah, and really well played again by Aquila. They don't need to force the Baron entirely. They just need to bait Omega Gaming in so that they can start generating more kills and more advantages for themselves. And it's exactly what they do. They wait, they bring in enough of pressure, or they bring in enough pressure of them being on the Baron to force Madman to overstep, force adjustments flash as well. They get a kill and they get enough pressure to get a recall for free, essentially, because there's always that
They
opportunity.
do stop the Baron, though.
That is
More
true.
importantly, they do stop the Baron. So Madman probably going to be a worthy sacrifice there, but this is where we need to address the problem of what occurred in the Dragon fight. With everybody low following the fight, they send adjustment back and keep Princeton and Vicro to fight around the Dragon and prevent them from getting it, but they forget about Wu Yun's teleport plays that he has access to. He teleports onto them, he gets the ultimate onto both targets, and he's able to just melt them down and give his team the win.
Exactly, that is what set it up entirely, was that teleport play, but you know, we got 3 minutes left on the Drake. This fight's been going for so long.
Prism going to be engaging on a Prism here. He gets the shockwave onto the opposing team's mid laner, or support rather, but he's in a 1v4. He's going to get picked up by Princeton.
And now Unleashed are going to maybe look towards this Baron here. No mid laner for
with
Aquila.
Prism down, no shockwave available. They only have to worry about the Wukong ultimate, but they are all ending up grouped up in this pit. You've certainly got to be worried about that. Madman has to come out here, threaten the Ornhorn to be able to get this disengaged. Zydeco is over the wall. He's aware of this Baron being started up, so they're going to start the fight. They get in the Ornhorn, but it doesn't hit onto anybody, but the team is split. Team Aquila, oh no! They throw the Glacial Prison right into the Morgana shield. That is a waste of an ultimate, and that's probably going to be the end of the fight, unless Wu Yun decides to go back in here. He goes for a massive Wukong ultimate, knocking up 4 targets, dealing so much damage onto the members of OGU, but he gets melted down after only taking down 1 target. It looks like they're going to be able to pick up the Ornn here. It's going to be a 2-for-1 in a 4v5. Zydeco looking for more. That's going to be a huge snare if it lands, but Simulacrum uses the Arctic Assault, puts enough distance between themselves and that Dark Binding so they don't get picked up.
And I really like that play from Unleashed to go for the Baron and turn off of it, but Aquila do such a good job at disengaging that they're able to keep themselves alive, and not only that, a perfect re-engage from Wu Hyun to actually turn the game back around and pick up 2 kills for themselves. You know, turning the game back. Prism caught in the Baron, sort of giving the advantage to Unleashed there, and Wu Hyun off of the back of just in tremendous Wukong play, turning the fight back into his team's favor.
Now, Unleashed is stuck in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation with Wu Hyun's powerful, powerful Wukong here. He's got 2 items completed, and he's so powerful against any individual member of OGU. So they don't want to group up together because they're going to get all hit by the Cyclone and knocked up like in that last fight, but they also don't want to separate because they're scared of somebody getting picked off individually by that same character.
There are so many things that they need to think about here in terms of, can they step up, can they not, and when can they turn, when can't they turn. It becomes incredibly difficult to try and win any of these team fights, and it's exactly why that we saw highlighted in that turn right there. Glacial Prison fired onto a target with the Black Shield on, really just denied any form of engage, as well as using Kaisper's flash to get away from Simulacrum on his initial engage. Just overall great play from Aquila, and this is a much higher level game than we saw from game number 1. Feels like both teams are doing a great job at fulfilling what they want to do, but it feels like Aquila are just executing that little bit better.
And this could be a major turning point in that game right now, as the next Dragon is going to be coming up, and this is sole point for Aquila. The Madman does not have access to his teleport. Princeton did not take that, but on the other side, we can see Simulacrum is looking for an engage here. Zydeco actually on the backside gets right onto Adjustment, who gets picked up by the Dawning Shadow. Princeton now picked up by Prism on the other side. Now Simulacrum trying to run away as fast as he can, but he gets picked up by Prism as well. Madman is in here trying to fight a 1v3, but he just can't do it. He might be able to pick up 2 pump, but it's all going to be for naught. He's taking so much damage here from Wu Hyun. He's going to go down. Vicro, the only one left alive, and can do nothing as he watches his teammates fall.
Yeah, Adjustment funneled in there to try and catch out 2 pump, but gets absolutely flanked by Zydeco. Wonderful positioning from the Graves to pick up and capitalize on the mispositioning of Omega Gaming Unleashed. Princeton as well not able to find any success with this Aurelia, and now Mountain Soul picked up for Aquila, as well as the mid lane tier 2. Everything's just turned on a dime, and now an 8,000 gold lead for Team Aquila here.
Yeah, and with that team fight, they have just slammed the door shut on this game, you have to feel. They have such control coming up into this Baron, as members of OGU are still just respawning. They're going to get the complete vision control around this area. They now have the Mountain Soul, giving them more HP than they would have otherwise at pretty much every point in the game. They have 3 of those buffs, giving them more resistances, which is going to be ever relevant. And it's just a bigger and bigger disadvantage for OGU.
Exactly, and I want to quickly throw shout out to Prism and his commitment to this Magi Soul Stealer. He picked it up very early into the game. At some point, was his most expensive item in his inventory, and has died a few times with it, and consistently gone back down to 0 stacks. But right now, found himself at 10, so has got that bonus movement speed as well. And now, finally looks like they're in a position to start actually stacking up some pages, getting some AP in his bank. And it just made me smile that he's stuck with it this entire time and is finally seeing some profit from it.
Yeah, it certainly paid off in that last fight because Prism was able to pop off there. He was able to get a huge amount of damage down with Zydeco onto Adjustment and Princeton there. And even after noticing that Simulacrum was incredibly low on HP and knowing how important that next dragon was for his team, Prism just flashes into the pit after Simulacrum to make sure he can secure that kill, knowing that it means his team will be able to get the soul.
Exactly. It's all about the bigger picture here and sort of seeing what does this mean in the grand scheme of things. If I do this, what will happen afterwards? And knowing that it's favourable for his team, is more than happy to commit this flash, commit to going for the plays like that flash over the wall to go ham onto the enemies. Baron started up though, Team Aquila taking no prisoners. Mountain Soul means they're easily able to tank this up, and at 31 minutes it's super easy for them to take down with all the damage.
Yeah, no, it's just going to be easy pickup of this Baron here. OGU just does not have the resources and the positioning to be able to challenge it. Going to be even more gold heading into the pockets of Team Aquila. Going to be that Baron buff heading into the pockets of Team Aquila, and they're going to look to try to break the base.
Yeah, they've got 5-man stacking in the mid lane right now, and you feel like they could probably send Wu Hyun down to a side lane. But at this point, do they really need to? They have probably enough damage to just force Omega Gaming off of the turret, but this is going to be a fight.
And that's going to be an engage onto Woohoo, and they're going to go for whatever they can here, but that Merc Treads is going to keep him from being CC'd up for very long. Not very much range on that Ashe ultimate means that he will not be CC'd for very long. And that's one of their engage tools already out. They're going to be losing this mid lane turret, and they might be losing even more. Here's a flash from Woohoo and onto everybody, going to be landing that ultimate onto as many targets as possible. Lands the second ultimate. Huge shockwave, picks up as many people as possible. Princeton trying to dive in, trying to make the difference, trying to save his team and this game and this series, but he's just not going to be able to do it. He gets chunked out too low. Prism picks up Vicro. Princeton is already dead. Madman is already dead. Simulacrum is sitting here with Adjustment, watching it alone. Simulacrum goes down, and now it is only Adjustment watching from the fountain as his Nexus falls.
Yeah, that is going to be the game, and not just the game, the series going in favour of Team Aquila. A valiant effort here by Omega Gaming Unleashed in game number 2. Definitely giving a lot better than they did in game 1. But ultimately, the teamfight prowess from Wu Hyun on this Wukong was just far too much for them to handle.
Yeah, definitely a great series here for Woohoo and be able to pick up 2 different top lane carries to punish these tank blind picks coming in from Omega Gaming Unleashed, and both times able to get extremely far ahead, even through a disconnect in game 1, and still managing to make the difference for his team, still managing to have those big AoE CC ultimates to lock down the enemy team, and able to do enough to make his team get the win.
Yeah, and that is ultimately going to be the series. He did tremendous amounts of work, and for me, definitely the MVP goes to Wu Hyun for this series. You know, time and time again, forcing the Madman out of lane, forcing advantages, and forcing pressure across the map. Multiple TP plays coming up, huge for the team as well. So definitely a well played performance the entire series. Not just, of course, by Wu Hyun, but the rest of the team as well. That last team fight notably as well. Kaisper untouched on the center in the backline. Two Pump actually not dying all this game either on the Morgana. So many shining stars for Team Aquila that they can just take home and be happy with a good day's work.
Yeah, certainly have to be happy with how they closed out week 1 here, as the game was a little bit later than they expected, but they were able to get the result they wanted regardless.
Exactly. They take the 2-0. This was the rescheduled game from week 1, so I believe the teams have already played once already. Or not necessarily against each other, but
Yes,
second game that they've played in the league, we'll say.
for sure. And that's going to do it for tonight's series. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I've been Gordo. You could find me on Twitter at lol_Gordo and Rudude yourself.
Yeah, Rudude here at Rudude1 just on Twitter. Thanks everybody for stopping by, for hanging out tonight. It's been a great little Friday evening cast here. Thanks for Gordo for joining me on the desk here. It's been a pleasure to cast with you for the first time, and here's to hopefully many more as well.
Yeah, hopefully. I think we have one scheduled for Monday, actually. So if you want to hear more of us, feel free to tune in then.
Exactly, and we're gonna find a raid for you guys here. So we'll send you over somewhere. Probably gonna send you to Style Esports, I think, right now. So with all that being said and done, we are going to take our leave. Thanks everybody for stopping, and we'll see you guys in just a short while here. Goodbye.